Imagine building the ultimate flying machine, an absolute marvel of engineering that passengers absolutely adore, only to realize that the airlines buy it a slowly bleeding money trying to keep it in the air. By 2017, the Airbus A380 was in serious trouble. The Super Jumbo was an icon, but twin-engine jets were just too efficient, and A380 orders had essentially flatlined. So Airbus went back to the drawing board. They didn't have the billions needed to completely redesign the aircraft with new ultra-efficient power plants. Out-of-the-box engineering to squeeze every single drop of efficiency out of the existing airframe. Their answer was unveiled at the 2017 Paris Air Show. They called it the A380Plus. It was a desperate, brilliant, and honestly somewhat ruthless attempt to save the largest passenger plane in the world. Today we are going a deep dive into the exact differences between the classic A380 and the A380 Plus. We are going to look at the hidden aerodynamic surgery, the extreme cabin modifications, and the desperate weight-saving measures that Airbus tried to pull off. But before, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, I'll be so thankful. Alright, let's talk about the wings. If you look at the original A380, the wingtips have these relatively small, triangular wingtips fences. Airbus went with this originally because A380 was already bumping right up against the absolute maximum which allowed for airport gates, an 80-meter box known as ICAO Code F. They simply didn't have the horizontal space to add massive, sweeping winglets without clipping airport terminals. But for the A380 Plus, Airbus engineered massive 4.7-meter split scimitar winglets. We are talking about 3.5 meters slicing straight up and 1.2 meter downlet. Because they couldn't go wider, these winglets went almost entirely vertical. Now you can't just bolt 15-foot pieces of metal at the end of the wing and call it a day. The aerodynamic loads completely shift. The moment you add those massive winglets, the bleeding moment of the wing root increases drastically. Airbus had to perform literal surgery on the existing wing design. They altered the dihedral angle, the upward tilt of the wings from the fuselage, and they added a 30mm recamber, basically raising the curve of the wing between rib 18 and rib 30 for the underside of the plane just to smooth out the airflow. All of that increased aerodynamic tweaking resulted in a 4% reduction in fuel burn. Not massive, but in the airline industry, 4% is millions of dollars over the lifespan of an airframe. But 4% wasn't enough to save the plane. Airbus knew that to make the A380 Plus truly viable, they had to drop the cost per seat by a double-digit margin. Their goal was 13%, and the only way to get the remaining 9% was to pack an incredible amount of extra people into the same exact metal tube. They needed to find space for 80 extra seats. Think about that, without making the plane a single inch longer. So the engineers went through the cabin with a scalpel, prioritizing density over the legendary A380 luxury. Let's start at the front door. When you walk through door number 1, you are greeted by the grand sweeping forward spiral staircase. It is an iconic piece of aviation interior design. It screams luxury. The A380 Plus killed it. Airbus completely deleted the forward grand staircase, replacing it with a compact, tightly wound set of stairs moved further back to the door 2. They even combined the entrance of these new stairs with the lower deck crew rest area to save a few more feet of floor space. Sacrificing the grand entrance instantly freed up enough room for 20 extra passengers. They did the exact same thing in the back. The aft spiral staircase was ripped out and replaced with a straight, square, purely functional set of stairs. Boom! Space for 14 more passengers and 2 food trolleys. But the most controversial change, The one that really showed how desperate things were getting happened on the main deck. The main deck of an A380 is notoriously wide, comfortably fitting a 10 abreast layout, 3 seats, an aisle, 4 seats, an aisle, and 3 seats. The A380 Plus proposed an 11 abreast layout, a 3-5-3 configuration. Now Airbus promised they would maintain the industry standard 18-inch seat widths. But how do you magically add an 18-inch seat to a row without making the other seats smaller? It comes down to crazy geometric illusions. The A380 fuselage is a circle. By raising the floor of the cabin just slightly, you move the floor up into the wider part of the circle, buying yourself a couple of crucial inches of width. Then they shrunk the aisles down to just 17 inches. They designed new seats where the armrests were shaved down to a razor-thin 2 centimeters. Yes, the seat cushion was technically 18 inches. But if you were stuck in the middle seat of that center 5-seat block, the battle for elbow room would have been an absolute nightmare. That 11 abreast layout alone crammed 23 more people onto the main deck. They didn't spare the upper deck either. Business class passenger loved the A380 because of the deep storage bins built into the sidewalls beneath the windows. The A380 Plus stripped those bins entirely to push the seats right up against the outer skin of the aircraft. They could change the layout to a denser angled herringbone, squeezing in 10 extra business class seats. Premium economy went from 8 abreast to 9 abreast, adding 11 more seats. It was a masterclass in spatial efficiency, but it completely endured the spacious, airy feeling that made passengers actively seek out A380 flights in the first place. And the changes weren't just skin deep. To carry 80 more people and their luggage, Airbus had to increase the maximum takeoff weight, or MTOW, by 3 tons, bringing it to 578 tons. This gave airlines flexibility. You could either carry those 80 extra passengers over the standard 8,200 nautical mile range, or if you didn't want the extra seats, you could fly your original passenger load an extra 300 nautical miles. But increasing the MTOW means the plane is heavier. So to maximize payload, Airbus had to put the plane on a diet, shedding its weight from system you would never even think about. Take the plumbing. The classic A380 flew with 4 massive waste tanks for the lavatories, 2 on the lower deck and 2 on the upper deck. After years of analyzing flight data, Airbus realized this was massive overkill. Planes almost never filled all 4 tanks. So for the A380 Plus, they eliminated the upper deck tanks completely. Removing those tanks and all the associated heavy plumbing saved hundreds of kilos. They also looked at the fuel system. The standard A380 has a widely complex fuel transfer system with 13 tanks and 41 separate fuel pumps, some of which exist purely to move fuel to the tailplane to manage the aircraft's center of gravity during flight, and replace them with simplified, highly reliable, high-slip induction motor pumps that Airbus had recently developed for the A350 XWB. They also proposed upgrading the flight management system to a much smarter version. They could track the exact aerodynamic drag of each specific airframe, allowing dispatchers to calculate tighter, safer fuel loads without carrying tons of unnecessary just-in-case fuel. Even the maintenance schedules were completely overhauled. Time on the ground is lost money. Airbus engineers stretched the A-checks to 2,000 flight hours. The heavy C-checks were extended from every 24 months to every 36 months. Airbus ran the numbers and told airlines that this revised schedule would give them an extra 6 days of flying per year per aircraft. Over a 15-year lifespan, they estimated that alone would generate about $27 million in additional revenue per plane. So you have better aerodynamics, 80 more paying passengers, lighter internal systems, and planes that spend less time in a hangar. It sounds like a slam dunk on paper. So why did anyone buy it? When Airbus presented the A380 Plus in 2017, the airline executives looked at the mass, looked at the 13% reduction in cost per seat, and still said no. Not a single order was placed. The brutal reality was that era of the 4-engine Super Jumbo was already over. Even with 80 extra seats and fancy winglets, an A380 Plus burning jet fuel through 4 massive Rolls-Royce or Engine Alliance turbofans simply could not compete with the sheer economic efficiency of the new generation of twin-engine widebodies. Planes like the Airbus A350 and the Boeing 777X were offering incredible range and massive capacity with only half the engines to maintain, half the engines to fuel, and a fraction of the financial risk if a flight wasn't 100% full. The A380 Plus was a brilliant engineering hustle. The way they managed to tweak the wing camber, raise the cabin floor, and optimize the plumbing just to buy the program a few more years is nothing short of incredible. But it wasn't a solution to a problem the market had already moved past. It remains one of the most fascinating what-ifs in modern civil aviation history. I'd love to know what you guys think. Would you have been willing to fly in that 11 abreast 353 main deck just to say you flew on the A380? Or do you think Airbus went too far trying to scram people in? Let's discuss it down in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to keep exploring the deep engineering secrets of civil aviation, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot and helps me keep making these videos for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.